The instructor's voice crackled through my translator implant, a grating sound that made my secondary ears twitch. Combat Strategy, Level 4. Pay attention, cadets. I leaned back in my seat, all three of my eyes half-lidded with boredom. 15 cycles of military academy, and they still insisted on teaching us the basics like we were freshly hatched grubs. Around me, my fellow Vorath warriors shifted in their seats, equally unimpressed. We were the elite, after all. The best of the best. What could possibly go wrong during a simple training exercise? That's when I noticed her. The human. She sat in the back corner, small and pink and utterly ridiculous looking. Her name was Maya Torres, according to the registration files I'd glimpsed earlier. One of those exchange students from Earth, part of some idiotic Galactic Council initiative to promote understanding between species. Right. Understanding. As if we needed to understand a species that had barely figured out faster-than-light travel. Today's exercise, the instructor continued, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction, will be a full-scale tactical simulation. You will defend Installation 7 against an overwhelming force. Standard protocol dictates immediate evacuation and regrouping at a safer location. I snorted. Standard protocol was for cowards. The human raised her hand. Actually raised it, like some kind of primitive classroom ritual. Yes? The instructor's tone dripped with barely concealed contempt. Question, sir. What if evacuation isn't an option? Several of my classmates hissed with laughter. The instructor's eyes narrowed. Then you die, cadet. That's why we evacuate. Interesting, she said, and I could have sworn I saw the corner of her mouth twitch upward. The simulation began 30 minutes later. We materialized inside the virtual Installation 7, a remote outpost on the edge of contested space. The facility was small, poorly defended, and completely indefensible. Exactly the kind of scenario designed to teach us when to cut our losses and run. I took command immediately, because of course I did. My combat scores were the highest in the class. Positions. Standard defensive formation around the primary exit. My squad moved into place with practiced efficiency. All except the human, who had wandered off toward the command center. Torres. I barked. Get back here. She didn't even look up. Busy. Busy? We had approximately 4 minutes before the enemy force arrived, and she was busy. The simulation timer ticked down. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. The rest of the squad exchanged nervous glances. This was supposed to be simple. Hold the line for 60 seconds, demonstrate we understood defensive tactics, then trigger the evacuation protocol. Clean. Easy. Boring. 1 minute. That's when the enemy appeared. Except they weren't supposed to appear like that. The simulation had gone rogue somehow, glitching in ways that made my combat instructor's eyes widen in genuine alarm from his observation post. Instead of the expected 50 attackers, the scanner showed 500. Then 1,000. Then the scanner simply displayed an error symbol and gave up counting entirely. What in the name of the void? Someone whispered. The first wave hit our position like a meteor storm. Energy blasts scorched the walls. My carefully arranged defensive formation lasted approximately 12 seconds before complete collapse. Bodies, virtual ones thankfully, started dropping. The exit we'd been protecting was already overrun. Fall back. I shouted, pride completely forgotten. Retreat to secondary positions. There were no secondary positions. We were trapped. I saw Krell go down, then Vex, then the Therian twins. The enemy kept coming, an endless tide of hostiles that shouldn't have existed in a training simulation. Someone was screaming. It might have been me. Then the entire facility shook. The lights cut out. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in blood-red illumination. And through my communicator, I heard the human's voice, calm as still water. "Hey guys. You might want to duck." Duck? Duck what? The installation's defensive cannons, every single one of them, activated simultaneously. Not the standard firing pattern we'd been taught. Something else. Something that traced geometric patterns in the air, created overlapping fields of fire that no tactical manual had ever described. The enemy forces, bunched up as they pushed through the narrow corridors, walked straight into a killing field. Within 30 seconds, the attack had stalled. Within 60, it had reversed. Within 90 seconds, the enemy was in full retreat, their overwhelming numbers now a liability as they trampled each other trying to escape the computational nightmare that Maya Torres had unleashed on them. The simulation ended. Silence filled our classroom. Real silence, the kind that pressed against your eardrums and made you acutely aware of your own breathing. The instructor stood frozen, his 3 mouths hanging open in perfect synchronization. "That's not, how did you, what did you even do?" Maya stood up from the command terminal, stretching like she'd just woken from a nap. "Oh, you know. Basic stuff. Reprogrammed the defensive grid, created a dynamic response algorithm based on enemy movement patterns, and exploited the simulation's physics engine to generate a cascading failure in their command structure." She smiled. It was not a reassuring expression. "Plus I hacked your difficulty settings. Hope that's okay." The instructor's primary eye started twitching. I'd never seen that before. In 15 cycles of military education, I'd watched him dress down admirals, reduce battle-hardened veterans to quivering masses of shame, and maintain perfect composure while students accidentally set the simulation chamber on fire. Twice. But this? This broke him. "You hacked my simulation?" Maya shrugged, a peculiar human gesture that involved raising both shoulders in a way that suggested profound indifference. "Well, technically I just noticed your security protocols were running on outdated Vorath military encryption, version 4.2 I think. My little brother could crack that with a basic quantum array in like 20 minutes. My mandibles locked shut so hard I heard something crack." Outdated? Our military-grade security was outdated? I wanted to protest, to defend the honor of Vorath technological superiority, but the evidence was literally standing right there, smirking at us. "Explain your tactics," the instructor finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper. "Sure." Maya walked to the front of the classroom with entirely too much confidence for someone who just committed what was probably 17 different violations of academic protocol. "So, everyone saw the problem, right? Overwhelming enemy force, single choke point, limited defensive options." She paused, looking around at our stunned faces. "Nobody? Seriously? Okay, well, the issue was that you guys were thinking about this like a standard defensive scenario. Hold the line, buy time, evacuate. Textbook stuff, I'm sure it works great against textbook enemies." Krell raised one claw weakly. "And that approach is wrong because?" "Because it assumes the enemy is smart," Maya said, grinning now. "But mass attacks like that? They're stupid by design. You throw bodies at a problem until the problem goes away. No finesse, no adaptation, just pure numerical advantage. Which means they're predictable." She activated the holographic display, replaying the simulation. "Look here. The moment they breached the perimeter, they all funneled through the same 3 corridors. Basic pathfinding algorithm, probably optimized for speed. So I asked myself, what happens if those optimal paths become the worst possible paths?" The replay showed her modifications taking effect. The defensive turrets hadn't just fired randomly. They'd created zones of denial that forced the enemy to cluster together, to slow down, to become targets instead of threats. "It's called a kill funnel," she continued. "Ancient human military tactic. You make the enemy come to you exactly where you want them, then you make them regret every life choice that brought them to that moment. I found my voice, though it came out rougher than intended. That level of coordination requires computing power beyond what Installation 7 possesses. Yep. Maya looked genuinely delighted by my objection. Under normal circumstances, totally impossible. But see, I noticed the simulation was running all these background processes, monitoring our performance, tracking individual decision points, running predictive models. Tons of processing power just sitting there, doing basically nothing useful. Oh no. You hijacked the simulation's own processing power, the instructor said flatly. You turned our evaluation system into your weapon. Technically I borrowed it. With interest, since I did improve the code efficiency by about 30% while I was in there. You're welcome, by the way. The Therian twins had recovered enough to exchange glances. Vex spoke up, his voice carrying that particular tone of someone whose entire worldview was actively collapsing. But the Academy has spent centuries developing these tactical doctrines. You can't just ignore all of that. Maya's expression softened slightly. I'm not ignoring it. Your doctrines are solid for conventional warfare between peer opponents. But humans? We've spent most of our history fighting enemies who outnumbered us. Bigger predators, hostile environments, each other mostly. We got really, really good at making up for disadvantages through creativity. She pulled up another display, this one showing historical human conflicts. Names and dates I didn't recognize flashed past. Thermopylae. Agincourt. Rorke's Drift. Stalingrad. Every one of these battles, Maya said quietly, involve humans being outnumbered, outgunned, or both. And every one of them involved humans winning anyway, because we stopped fighting the battle our enemy wanted and started fighting the battle we could win. The classroom had gone completely silent again, but this time it felt different. Less shocked, more thoughtful. The instructor cleared his throat. Your tactics were effective, Cadet Torres. Disturbingly so. However, you still violated protocols, compromised secure systems, and fundamentally altered a standardized evaluation. Maya nodded, her expression carefully neutral. Yes, sir. All accurate. Which means I have no choice but to recommend you for advanced tactical studies, effective immediately. Wait, what? Your approach demonstrates exactly the kind of adaptive thinking we need in modern warfare, he continued, and now he was smiling. Actually smiling. Also, if I don't promote you out of my class immediately, I'll never sleep soundly again wondering what you'll hack next. Laughter rippled through the room, genuine and surprised. Maya grinned. Does this mean I passed? Passed? The instructor's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Cadet, you just defeated 1,000-to-1 engagement using nothing but creative thinking and aggressive disregard for established conventions. That's not passing. That's being human, apparently. As we filed out of the classroom later, I found myself walking beside the small pink alien who just humiliated our entire cohort. That was impressive, I admitted grudgingly. Terrifying and probably illegal, but impressive. Maya laughed. Thanks. And hey, don't feel bad. Your defensive formation was actually pretty solid. It just wasn't designed for the kind of ridiculous scenario I created. You're saying you made it harder on purpose? Oh, absolutely. If I'm going to break your simulation, might as well break it spectacularly, right? I stared at her. She stared back, completely unrepentant. Humans. Absolutely ridiculous species. Absolutely terrifying allies. Same time next week? Maya asked cheerfully. I groaned. Please tell me you're not planning to hack another evaluation. Of course not. She paused. I'm planning to hack 3 evaluations. Efficiency, you know? Somehow, I believed her. Somehow, that didn't seem like the worst thing anymore.